Okay. Hi, folks. Today I'm going to attempt to explain why the flying spaghetti monster could not be omniscient. Omniscience is defined in various ways, but today we'll explore omniscience as the ability to look up properties of particles. So you could imagine their noodly appendage going to some portion of space-time and picking out a particular particle and inspecting it, observing its properties in some universal fashion. And we'll show how that leads to a contradiction. So we'll talk about a property called squared spin, which all spin one particles have. Squared spin could be thought of as like a sphere. We instead of a particle, we have a sphere, and then we paint the sphere with two different colors, non-overlapping, so that each part of the sphere is either one color or another color. So if our noodly appendage were to hypothetically zoom in and look at this particle, they could observe the squared spin simply by looking at this sphere and looking at which regions are which color. We cannot experimentally do this in the laboratory. What we can experimentally do in the laboratory is we can take something called a basis in 3D space. So I've got three different axes, and each pair of axes is perpendicular. As long as I keep that relation between them, I can rotate my wrist, and I have a free choice of basis. So we could imagine, we can't take a measurement of the whole sphere, but what we can measure, us humans, is we can imagine this basis is in the middle of the sphere, and then we can take knitting needles that are aligned with each of these axes, and that poke through the sphere at these points. And these 6 points that poke through, that's what we measure. What ends up happening in the lab when we do this measurement, or something morally equivalent to it, is we find that without exception, two things happen. First, the axes, they have these 2 points, one up above and one below, right? 1 point behind, 1 point forward, etc. And each pair of points is the same color on the sphere. So the painted sphere, it's got this paint around each needle. And so we could think of each needle as having its own color. The other interesting thing is that one needle is one color, and the other two needles are the other color every time. And because of this result, the Cauchy-Specker lemma says that there is an explicit collection of 33 needles, a bunch of measurements that you can do one after the other. And the 33rd needle, the final needle, doesn't have a consistent color. It appears to be both colors simultaneously. But that would mean that the sphere is painted with two colors simultaneously in some region, which isn't allowed. And that means, if we imagine our noodly appendage looking at this particle, it means that there's no way to actually look at the squared spin of the particle. It's not predetermined. It's not a property of the particle that's written down. Instead, quantum mechanics insists that we have to form a basis, and we choose which basis to measure the particle in, and that's a query to the particle. The particle then answers us, and its answer is not predetermined. Anyway, that's all I had for today. Have a happy Friday. Peace.